My name is Krishna, and I recently completed my CESR in trauma and orthopedic surgery. When I first came to this country 4 years ago, I found a distinct lack of specific practical advice on the CESR process. For sure, there was ample theoretical information, there was a lot of broad guidelines, the GM extremely helpful, but nevertheless, it was hard to get all the specific information in one place. Hence, I decided to set up this video, which is an advice on filling in the application form. This is ideally suited for a late stage CESR applicant or someone who is in the final year or two of applying. But if you're someone who has just thought about doing CESR but are unsure how to proceed, what evidence to collect, what not to collect, seeing this video might give you some idea of how to go about it. The focus is on trauma and orthopedic surgery, but the general guidelines are suitable for all specialties. Some golden rules: review the latest specialty guidelines very carefully. The goalposts do keep changing, and it's your responsibility to keep up with them. Make sure all your evidence is fully anonymized. I cannot emphasize this enough. Several people have been caught out by a lack of anonymization, and I'll explain in a later part of the video as to how to do this and where these sections are. Remember, some sections are given more weightage than others depending on your specialty. For example, the logbook and the PBAs for the surgical side. Check, double check, and then recheck your submission. Having an OCD gift is actually a real true gift for a CESR applicant. The Murphy's Law, like all things in life, does very much apply to CESR. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Nothing is as easy as it looks. Everything takes longer than you think. If several things go wrong, the one to go wrong will do the most damage. If anything simply cannot go wrong, it will anyway. Left to themselves, things go from bad to worse. If everything's going well, you have clearly missed something. Now, all is not lost, so don't despair. A disclaimer before we start the actual process: the views expressed here are my own and do not reflect the views of the GMC or the JCST. The recommendations I make are based on my personal experience. They work for me, and I too hope they work for you, but I cannot guarantee it. Please ensure you review the most current guidelines when you apply, and I bear no legal responsibility for any advice herein. The first place to start is to try and set up your curriculum vitae. The most common mistake people make is to try and use your job CV and then modify it to suit the CESR process. This just does not work. Start making a fresh CESR CV as per the guidelines given. Your CV is your introduction to the committee. It should tell your story. You want to show them in your own words that you have the equivalent training and the experience of a CCT trainee. Sometimes when writing your CV, people have asked, is there something I should include? Is there something I shouldn't include? My take on this is, if the information is relevant, unless you include it, they can't assess it. So by all means, as long as the information is truthful and accurate, do include it. Use the exact format as outlined in the GMC guidance. Another common mistake people make is the dates of employment on the CV don't exactly match the application form and your employment letters. And several CVs do get returned because of this, so do make sure that this is corrected. Put your initial and surname on each page, the top right corner. Now, the GMC does give quite good guidance on this, and all this is mentioned. Do go through this and try and put your CV in accordingly with as per the format, numbering each page, bullet points, etc. Now, this is how I did my CV. Note that an ideal CESR CV should be about 25 pages, but mine came to 38 pages. But the reasons for that are, one, my jobs in the last 6 years included 6 hospitals in 3 different countries. So there was a lot of material I had to put on it, and that's one of the reasons why it came to. But when you start your CV, start with your personal details and contact information. This should match what the GMC has on record for you. Your registration details will be your GMC number and your numbers with any foreign accreditation agencies or foreign medical councils if you have them. Your professional medical qualification, what they basically look for is your intercollegiate fellowship exam. This is considered the gold benchmark. If you do have other qualifications, do put them as I did. Put your intercollegiate first and then work the rest down in a reverse chronological order. They'd like to see an employment chart, so they want to know all the places that you have worked in since and including your post graduation. So put the start date, put the end date, the name of the hospital, your title or role, and put in the name of your supervisor or supervising consultant at that point. Now, I also included a brief job description which basically summarized my role in 2-3 lines. This helps them to see what kind of role you were doing at that point, whether you were a clinical fellow or a service registrar, whatever title you had back when. Do not try and change that to a UK based title. For example, if abroad you were called specialist, then do put it as a specialist. Do not try and change it to a registrar, because as I said, this should match up with your employment letters. Then this is not particularly asked for, but I included a subspecialty experience CV, because when they assess you, they are looking at the range and the breadth of your experience, and to make sure you have ample experience in all subspecialties. Therefore, why not make it easy for them? So put it into a format. So as far as orthopedics was concerned, I included a subsection on pediatrics, on major trauma, upper limb, hand and wrist, shoulder, elbow, foot and ankle, hip and knee, and spine. And I put in some certain relevant logbook information as well to show the numbers I had done in each. Research and publications, do list all your research publications in there. We will deal with this very exhaustively in the research section, which comes later in this video. Presentations as well, try and rank them and classify them as international and national, regional and departmental presentations, as I did. Even if it's a presentation you have made in your local hospital, do try and include that in that section. The courses relevant to curriculum, for this I used a software app called the GMC CPD, which is available on your smartphone. It lets you classify the course which you attended, and this actually makes it easy for them to classify the evidence as domain 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So I thought that was helpful for them. The next section is the audits. I cannot emphasize the importance of audits. A lot of people do get caught out if you do not pay much attention to this section. You need 1 audit per year, and you need at least 2 loop closing audits. You'll have to submit your entire set of press slides for the audits, but I'll talk about it later on. But in my CV, I didn't just mention the audit. I gave a small brief description of each in about 5-6 lines as to what the audit was about and what was the kind of learning point from it. The teaching and training experience I classified as UK experience, international experience, and I put them again in order. You can also classify it as bedside teaching, formal teaching, or ward-based teaching, or if you are a certified educational supervisor, then do try and put that as well. Meetings and conferences that you have attended are self-explanatory. Management skills include your role in either hospital type management, if you have non-hospital management as I did, although it was in a medical role, you can include that, and I did as well. And last but not the least are your referees. Now, so the top tips are: include information on your whole career. Do not just restrict your CV to the last 6 years, although that should be the main focus. Especially for logbook, if you don't have the logbooks from beyond 6 years, do try and get a summary sheet of all your cases, as I did. I summarized it, I showed it to my supervisor abroad, I got it verified, and then I submitted that. Do give brief job descriptions and use the GMC app as I mentioned, and that's the ideal length of your CESR CV.